Hi there again, Sandy Schweiger, winemaker here at Schweiger Vineyards. Thank you for tuning in to today's Schweiger Live. Today, we're going to talk about our 2015 Cabernet Sauvignon, which went out just this last week to all of our wine club members in their newest release. A little bit about the 2015 vintage in general. 2015 turned out to be a very challenging year. We had a very cold winter and a very cool spring. We didn't get a lot of pollination that year. So typically in a cluster of Cabernet, we might get one or two shot berries. These are berries that did not fully germinate. And usually when that happens, they fall off. Instead of only one or two per cluster, we had upwards of 50 to 80% of the cluster with berries like this, and none of them fell off. Our cluster count was very low, and by the time the season was done, our production was about 45% of normal on Cabernet Sauvignon. We had to take some unusual drastic measures. We have sorted our fruit out in the vineyard. Dad and Becca spent a lot of time out in the vineyard just going through all the bins, making sure everything coming in is picked clean. However, in 2015, there was nothing we could do about those small shot berries. I realized early on that this was going to be an issue. Dad and I were saying, well, will these shake off? We actually took some clusters and did our best to simulate what they're going to be like when they go through the destemmer. And it was, no, these are going to go right in with the fruit. We were fortunate enough to get one of the last sorting tables available that season. Actually, it had already been sold, but the gentleman had not come to pick it up and never put a deposit down, and had said he would pick it up about 40 days before that. So Dad and I turned to each other and said, okay, we'll be down there in an hour with a truck, with a check, paid in full. So that was the first year we ever used a sorting table. And it proved to really not only save, but enhance the vintage. I think 2015 is an amazing standout vintage. I always hesitate to say one of the better vintages we make here because all these wines are like my children. I don't love one more than the other. They all have their unique nuances. So speaking of their unique nuances, if you haven't already, pop open a bottle, pour yourself a glass, and let's chat about it. We have Paul acting as my producer, so if you have any questions or comments, feel free to chat either in the chat that your chats are addressed to audience and attendees. And if you're on Facebook watching this live stream, just make a comment in the comment window, and she is watching both of those. So on the nose, this has that typical Schweiger Cabernet, blackberry, dark cherry, a little bit of a plum aroma to it, as well as some cocoa, a little bit of tobacco. Feel free, if you guys have any thoughts on what you're smelling, feel free to put them in the comments window. What I really love about this is how the entry has evolved. It has a warm velvetiness to it that seamlessly integrates into the mid palate, and the fruit flavors continue to grow on the mouthfeel. There's a nice acidity to it that is going to make this very food friendly. So for those of you on the East Coast who are almost ready to sit down for dinner, hopefully you've got some nice red meat. That puttanesca sauce that Paula you made the other night was amazing with this as well. Really has that acidity to complement fattier foods. I could go for a good beef Wellington right about now. So, as I said, we only made about 45% of our normal volume. We grow enough fruit here that in any given vintage, we could make 3 to 4,000 of Cabernet in a vintage. However, we don't want to make too much wine, so we sometimes do sell in the bulk market, or we sell our grapes to other wineries. 2015, we had nowhere near enough production. We only made about 1,800 cases of this wine, and every single grape brew, every last drop we produced went in the bottle to go into your homes. The 2015 did have our typical 3-year barrel aging, and this was about 55% new French oak. Those of you who tuned into my tannin talk last week heard me talking about the whys, the reasoning behind the extended barrel aging. And that really shows in here. This wine, if not aged that long, would have been very grippy, tight, and lean. And I really like how this mouthfeel is showing today.
So Marina has typed in, we were told not to open the 2015 since we just received it 5 days ago. Is it okay to open? We're watching and drinking the 2012 vintage. That's my favorite.
Oh, nope, this is indeed the 2015. I do sometimes tell people to hold off if you're going to be wanting to cellar it for a while. But we thought with everybody, well, not with everybody, but with a lot of people being locked into their home, be able to go out, that they might be tempted to open sooner. So Marina, I would go ahead and open it up, enjoy it, taste along with us, because this is such a limited vintage. If you decide you want to reorder it, it may be sold out in 6 months and not available for reorder. So I would enjoy these now if you can. John says they're tasting the 2011 Cabernet. That is in a vintage that is showing so well. It's funny that the 2011 vintage, much like the 98 vintage, the critics were quick to bash it as a colder vintage, something to avoid. And boy, were they proven wrong. That 2011 is drinking so elegantly right now. I saw another comment come through that I missed, Paula.
Thank you for shipping 2 bottles. Now I can sell her the second one.
There you go.
Joseph on Facebook says, hello from Savannah, Georgia.
Well, hey there. How are things in Savannah? Well, I thought we hit do not disturb on that phone. Oh well, live and learn. My thoughts on the 2012, I lost the last part of that.
Thoughts on the 2012 vintage. We're watching from New Jersey. Paula's favorite.
Paula says it's her favorite. And you know, the 2012 has been, over the last 8 months, has been drinking amazingly well. That's been a go-to in our house. I've had to cellar it creatively, because if I had it where it logically would be, Paula probably would have consumed it all by now. Becca wrote in, how does the shape of the wine glass affect the, was it aroma, flavor? Just how does it affect the wine? To me, there's a lot of opinions out there, but the shape of the glass, I think, does help, does bring out the flavors, does bring out the aromas quite a bit. I think that Riedel got a little carried away trying to have one shape for every different varietal of wine. We actually stopped using the Riedel glass here at Schweiger Vineyards and switched over to the Gabriel glass. We did trials. We used to have a glass for Chardonnay and a glass for Cabernet here in our tasting room. And we discovered over time that the Gabriel glass shape actually focuses and narrows in the aromas to the nose, making them all that much more enjoyable. I think more important than the glass shape is storing them at a good temperature. For me, I normally like my reds I cellar at home at about 58 degrees, and I'll take them out into room temperature for about a half an hour. Just let them warm up just a little bit. So I like to start enjoying them a little below room temperature and let them slowly open up as the evening progresses. And that's another thing is I typically don't like to decant. To me, decanting, you miss the fun evolution of the wine in your glass, seeing the wine open up and grow to something even more pleasurable sip after sip.
Becca also asks, why do you swirl the wine?
Why do we swirl the wine? That actually turns it, you can look at it as a sheer exercise in physics. First off, we have a defined surface area. As soon as we start swirling it, we get a dynamic, and we're doubling and tripling the surface area. In addition to that, we're actually moving things around. We're encouraging flow, and it's going to make it easier for those aromas to come up into our nose. Frequently, when I'm tasting wines, especially critically tasting wines, the first thing I'll do when I first pour it is smell it unswirled, because there might be more subtle aromas that you could miss, those quieter notes, the lone oboe that can get lost in the symphony of a swirled wine.
Nina writes in, how long do you recommend decanting before drinking?
Well, the decanting issue, again, that your mileage may vary. In the situation of 2015, where it was just shipped, I'd say half an hour to an hour, just to let the wine calm down a little bit. But I would pour yourself a glass first and see how you enjoy it. So maybe pour yourself a glass, pour the rest of it in the decanter, and see how it goes throughout the evening.
And Joseph writes in on Facebook, would you recommend aeration over decanting?
Aeration over decanting. Again, that's a tough one. Aeration is going to help open the wine a little bit more, but to me, aeration is more about tannin management, softening, and rounding. And we've already worked on that in the barrel room. By aging it much longer, it's going to make the wine much more supple and round when we release it. I think all the wine gadgets and all the wine toys have become popular, A, because it gives tasting rooms something to sell, B, because wines these days are being released to market too soon. We just released the 2015 to our wine club today. Most of our partners out in distribution are purchasing the 2014 right now. And the 2015, although approachable now, I wouldn't want to release my 2016. I know wineries are bottling their 2018s with the intention of releasing them this summer. And that's too soon. The release cycle is intended to help protect people from committing infanticide in their wines.
Amy writes in, does the glass shape matter when drinking white wines?
I think the glass shape does matter, but again, it's okay. I prefer my Chardonnays and my Pinots in a broader, more open bowl. But again, that's more my personal preference. Everybody's going to have their preference. Definitely a nice wine glass is always going to make wine taste better than a red solo cup. But when push comes to shove and you want to enjoy a glass of wine, I've been stuck in a hotel room after conducting a tasting, and gosh darn it, those hotel coffee cups sometimes work in a pinch. Anything else?
How long can you age Schweiger Cab?
So the question is, how long can you age Schweiger Cabs? Dad and I shortly are going to open up a bottle of 95 Cabernet for a special promotion coming up next week. I'm very confident it is still going to be firing on all cylinders. As the wines age, they change, they become even more rounder. The acidity, if present when we release the wines, hopefully is going to balance well with the food. The color obviously is going to be a lot more brick red on the edges. But so far with our vintages, I'd say under proper conditions, 15 to 20 years, no problem. Again, under proper conditions. Nothing drives me more crazy than giving a bottle of wine to a friend and then going to their house for dinner a year later, and they said, oh, we were saving it for a special occasion, and they kept it on top of the refrigerator in full sunlight. That nothing can kill a wine faster than sunlight, heat, and rapid vibration like a refrigerator. I saw a few more comments come through.
What's the difference between mountain cabs and valley floor cabs?
Difference question is, I'm not sure if you guys can hear Paula reading the questions back to me. The difference between mountain cabs and valley floor cabs. Got several things happening here that make these wines different. Up in the mountains, most of our topsoil, the most fertile layer of soil, over the centuries, before we even developed this property, had the valley floor. Now, part of the several pillars of being a fish-friendly farming certified property is that we are doing our best to keep all of our soil up here. I mean, because what we have, we want to keep up here. What that means is our soil is naturally less fertile. All that topsoil is down the valley floor. The valley floor is going to produce a much higher crop. They have to work a lot harder dropping fruit to produce higher quality wines. For those of you who have ever grown tomatoes at home, if you give them a lot of fertilizer, if you give them a lot of water, you're going to get these giant, beautiful tomatoes. And when you take a bite out of one, they're watery and unpleasant. They just don't taste good. Same holds true for grapes. The more fertilizer, the more water you give them, the more watery they're going to be. In the mountains, we are naturally soil deficient. We dry farm here. Most vineyards in the hills dry farm. And equally important is our sun exposure. If you've ever visited a mountain vineyard in the summertime, the valley floor is going to be socked in fog. We are still out in bright sunlight. So our vines wake up at the crack of dawn and they're producing they're going through photosynthesis all day long. Whereas down below in the valley, might start kicking in about 11 or 12 o'clock in the morning. More important than that, though, is tannins, phenols are produced in the skins in the absence of UV radiation when temperatures are above 60, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. In the mountains, our daytimes are cooler, our nighttimes are warmer. And so our vines are working harder producing those tannins. At night, the valley floor vines simply can't. So we're getting a greater tannin complexity of tannins that the valley floor wishes they had. Many valley floor Cabernet producers will pump over or punch down 3, 4, 5 times a day just to get every last tannin out of it that they can. Up here with mountain fruit, we have to be very careful not to overextract. Mountain fruit, it's real easy to make a tannin heavily extracted fruit bomb, but that's not my intention. I want to make wines that chefs can enjoy pairing with food.
Marina writes in that they are getting ready to open in 96.
Marina is getting ready to open in 96 Schweiger Cabernet.
Wanting to know if it's going to be similar to the 95.
Is it going to be similar to the 95? Maybe we'll have to do a side-by-side tasting sometime in the future, Marina. I have not tasted them in a while. Now, the nice thing about being estate bottled is I have the same fruit source year after year. So I'm not having to learn a new ranch. Several wineries are not able to label their products as estate bottled. Where I can, because all my fruit is coming from the same place, I'm not going to say I know what to expect every year, but there's fewer surprises than if I were buying fruit from different ranches every year. 95 and 96, if memory serves, were very similar growing seasons. And I had all the same processing equipment and was still using about the same barrel configuration between the two vintages. So yeah, I'd say there would be some similarities, but more fun to say there'd be some differences too. Now, with that 96 vintage, I would recommend that if you have an Osso available, I would recommend that to open to pull the cork, because as these corks get older, they become more brittle and will fall apart more easily. Anything else, Paula?
Couple things. You recommend a recipe to share after the show, one that you feel worthwhile that we have that we can share with our viewers?
Good idea. The question is recipe to share with the viewers afterwards. I will come up with something in the next 24 hours and share it in the Facebook comments as well as the YouTube comments.
Someone wants to know where they can purchase the wine racks you have on the walls.
Where we can purchase the wine racks on the walls. I don't remember where we found these. I was actually in a wine shop in New York City, and their entire shop was outfitted with these. And we wound up finding them online. So I would just search online, maybe use a search term, metal wine racks, and let Google be your friend.
Someone on Facebook wanted to know how we're holding up with the loss of tourism during this quarantine.
So a question on Facebook, how we're holding up with the loss of tourism during this quarantine period. Well, it's been interesting. It's been quiet. It's interesting to go down the streets of St. Helena where you normally can't find parking, and Highway 29 kind of looks like a 4-lane freeway right now that you could bowl down. So how are we holding up? Well, thanks to wine club members like you tuning in today who received your shipments, we're doing well. We're operating on a skeleton crew. Becca, who's watching from home, is still waiting to get results on her parents. The 3 of them were all traveling together out of the country, and her parents have been exhibiting symptoms, and so they're still waiting on test results. So our prayers are with Becca's parents, and until we know that they both test negative, Becca quarantining. So it's just me in the cellar right now. Farm operations continue because that's something where we can social distance ourselves. Fred has been practicing social distancing by playing the accordion, and nobody wants to go near him. Wendy and Michelle continue to work in the office, but Bill has been a little under the weather, so he's been working from home, as has Charlene. So we're just doing the best we can to pull things together. But with this online drive, with me hosting videos, I think that if you can't come taste with us, I'll bring the tasting to you. So we appreciate any and all suggestions for future topics of videos. Please feel free to email the family at schweigervineyards.com with any suggestions for future videos. A couple more questions and then we probably have to wrap things up.
John Jacobson says that Fred should accompany the webinar.
Fred should accompany the webinar. Trying to tie Fred down and get him in one place. It was hard enough to get him in on the history, but maybe we can get him in on Friday. I'll have him do it on Friday, and I'll be his off-screen person. One more, and we'll wrap it up.
We have a lot of people saying, thank you for having these tastings. It's enjoyable to have these short times with you, and it's making safer at home more tolerable.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Oh, sorry. Somebody commented thanking us for doing these videos and making safer at home much more tolerable. Well, that's one of the primary reasons we want to do these, is realizing that we have a lot of friends out with wines, love coming to visit us, and simply can't get out of their homes. So we're just doing our best to bring our wines and spend some time with you in your home. So I think that will do it for us today. We'll wrap up. Oh, wait. Yes. So please continue to send in questions. This will be posted to Facebook shortly, and it will also be in our YouTube. So please feel free to send in questions either to the family at schweigervineyards.com or in the comments section. We do read all those comments and we do appreciate them. And they will also give us inspiration for future videos as well. Please be sure to tune in Friday March 27th at 3 o'clock, same time. So same time here on Friday, both on Zoom and on Facebook Live, where we will be going through the dedication that you just received. For those of you who are not familiar with dedication, that's our Bordeaux blend that we make here every year, and that is a state bottle. It's a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, and Malbec. Then next week, not on Zoom, it will only be on Facebook Live. We're going to have a very special series of in-home tastings. These are going to be co-hosted between myself and some of the members of the men's a cappella group, Straight No Chaser. Many of them are wine club members, and we're fans of their music, and they're fans of our wine. So it's going to be an uncollaborative series of tastings. So please join us for that. Until next time.
When will next week's invitations go out?
When will next week's invitations go out? I need to talk with Charlene about that, but I'm sure before the end of this week. So just keep an eye on your email boxes or in Facebook, and we'll get to you then. So until next time, thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Stay safe.